After the battle of the Z Fighters, everyone realized just how strong they become. Alongside Gohan and Piccolo themselves, they became way stronger, but Goku and Vegeta also did not underestimate them, knowing that they must also grow stronger. But in the coming couple of months, eventually they were encountered by a strange new god instruction. Someone familiar to them. Both of were confused who he was, but eventually Champa introduced himself as the Universe 6 god instruction. Champa, the brother of Beerus, his twin brother. Of course, when Beerus realized he was irritated by his brother, asking him why he was here as he was interrupting his peaceful time with his students. Of course, Champa just looks at Beerus, asking if he truly thinks that these mortals are actually his students. Beerus responds to Champa and saying that one of them is his students, yes, but they're equally as strong as him right now. So if he wants to battle them, go ahead. It's his grave, not him. Of course, Champa gets irritated at Beerus and powers up, but both give Vegeta power of their own aura as they power up to Super Saiyan God. It just immediately transforms to Super Saiyan God, shocks Champa as they were actually able to utilize God Ki, as Champa was in shock. He could not believe it, so his brother actually taught those mortals how to use God Ki, but Beerus refuses, saying that they learned it on their own. They trained their hearts to achieve God Ki. He did not help them in any way, no, he just slightly guided them with Whis. As Champa decides to actually do something with Beerus, trying to test his morals of his universe against his. Beerus just chuckles and tells Champa to give it his best, saying that he will give him 2 months of preparation. Champa gets irritated and thinks that if his universe is that weak. Beerus decides to tell him that yes, it's indeed weak. That even the weakest of Saiyans that he has in his universe are almost as strong enough to eliminate solar systems by themselves. So Champa thinks that he can beat them? Go ahead. His grave, not his. Again. So Champa gets irritated and decides to accept Beerus' challenge for the Super Dragon Balls. And eventually, 2 months indeed pass, but eventually the tournament beginning. Of course, Goku and Vegeta would have included both Gohan and Piccolo, since both of them would not have refused this challenge to see how strong they have far become. As for the fighters from Universe 6, it will still remain Hit, Frost, Kaba, and of course Batama and Magetta, though they will be stronger than their counterparts due to their training for 2 months. Though of course not by a really long shot, but still pretty more powerful than before. Eventually, the bracket will still begin in the original, with Goku going first against Batamo. Of course, Batamo will get cocky, as he has been training with some of the same, with Kaba and the others so he can get stronger. But Goku just smiles at him, and eventually he decides to switch with Gohan, with Gohan going first. Also, I kinda actually got it wrong, it's actually going first, so yeah, so that's why I corrected myself, yeah. So yeah, Gohan has to go first in the tournament. Of course, Goku is kind of bummed out, but Gohan does he'll try to do anything as quickly as possible, since he doesn't want to waste anyone's time. In which he fights against Batamo. But Batamo's rubber-like body is actually pretty challenging for Gohan, since Gohan in his time he never faces Majin Buu, he's actually less experienced with this, but he's actually able to tell that it's actually Batamo's weakness without even realizing, as Batamo, even not paying attention, can actually bounce himself out of the ring, and that's what Gohan utilizes. He has his intelligence, and eventually, when he gets into the right position, he's able to knock out Batamo with just one hit alone, still in his base storm nonetheless. Of course, this surprises Champa. We go on just looking at him, saying this is the best his universe got. Of course, Champa isn't shocked. Batamo lost in just mere 2 minutes, and these 2 minutes will just go on analyzing Batamo himself. This shocks Champa, without actually being slightly impressed that this mortal, even without God Ki, is so strong. She can tell he may be almost on par with the other two who have God Ki, which is quite impressive. Beerus explained that both Goku and Gohan are actually hybrids, with Goku being of the Adrenaline race, shocking Champa even more, as he knows that the Adrenaline race are pretty powerful with their own techniques, since their techniques are stated to be incredibly powerful even though they're weak in physical strength. But basically having overwhelming physical strength and overwhelming techniques was something even Champa himself could not believe, as Gohan was already strong, and now that he's a hybrid of 3 races, not just humans, not just a human or Saiyan, but Yardran 2, makes him an even more deadlier opponent than Champa expected. Realize that he may actually lose his entire tournament, and Champa gets irritated and decides to go off with his next fighter, being Magetta. But Magetta actually does slightly much more better than Batamo, though not by much, as he still is not to be underestimated, but Gohan is easily able to dodge Batamo's attacks due to being much more faster than Batamo. The Magetta, I meant. So yeah. Magetta, of course, tries to attack Gohan, but Gohan is easily able to dodge him. And eventually, Magetta decides to utilize this lava. But this lava is actually much more stronger due to Magetta basically storing it for straight 2 months, which makes it even harder than before. Of course, Gohan realizes that he must go aside serious as he powers to Super Saiyan, and eventually glares at Magetta, giving a cold stare, saying this is all the metal drunk has. Of course, Vegeta gets sad and eventually leaves the arena by himself. Shocking Gohan and the rest of the Z-Fighters. This is going to realize that Vegeta's weakness is actually he cannot take insults very well. Which surprises Gohan is that he'll keep that in mind if he were to face some of Vegeta's race, believing that it may be beneficial for the future. But the next fight will be a different and much more interesting one as well. Being as Gohan, of course, was still prepared, not laying his guard down nonetheless, knowing that he must face the opponent with almost all caution. Gohan eventually glares at Champa, asking if the next fight will be much more better than Vegeta. Of course, Champa agrees to see, but agrees. And eventually, Frost appears. Frost is decided to go into his final form, knowing that he cannot hold him back against Gohan. But this Frost has been training for straight 2 months with the other fighters of Universe 6, so he's much more strong than his counterpart. Eventually, Frost fights against Gohan, trying to trick him with mind games, but Gohan is unfazed. As Frost continues to battle Gohan, and eventually realizes 75% of his power, while Gohan utilizes 50% of Super Saiyan. But it actually seems to be almost a stalemate as far as actually starting to get the advantage. But Gohan starts to power up even more, and eventually, after a while, Gohan gets serious, going to 100% of his Super Saiyan, and eventually power to Super Saiyan 2, saying to Frost that he's been a really good challenge, but now he will end this. Of course, Frost does try to use Point Neo, but he still loses because of Gohan's much more fast reflexes. Eventually, the next match will be Hit against Gohan. We hit Tigran come look at Gohan. Of course, Gohan also looks back at Hit, with both of them ready, as Hit gets into his stance, saying to Gohan to bring in his all, as he will need it. Of course, Gohan decides to trust his worst is power to his ultimate form, and his power increases skyrocketingly. Surprising both Vados and Champa is Gohan looks like he was in his base form, but now he's even more powerful than before. Of course, Beerus explains to them that this is the power of the ultimate form that Gohan got, thanks to him getting thanks to the kind of his universe, unlocking Gohan's potential, giving him the ultimate form. Of course, Champa gets irritated as he realizes that Gohan is even stronger than he actually showed himself as well. So Hit decides to get slightly more serious, fighting against Gohan, but Gohan is still unfazed by Hit's time skip, as he's actually able to slightly react to it due to the ultimate form being incredibly strong and powerful. If you're wondering, Ultimate Gohan in this timeline is as strong as Goku utilizes Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 20, which makes it an even much more bigger gap in power. So yeah. But he has also grown stronger himself, and eventually he decides to use one of his newly acquired techniques thanks to his training with Champa. Of course, Champa decides to train Hit is one of the most beneficial fighters that Champa has. So Hit decides to utilize his time domain, a really beneficial technique that he was able to acquire thanks to his race's ability to practically skip in time. Of course, this ability basically allows Hit to throw someone in time and slow down by 1,000,000 times, making it 1,000,000 times slower, while also increasing his speed by 1,000,000 times as well. Of course, Hit solo was to Gohan, and saying that Gohan was a pretty good match for him, saying he was the strongest fighter that he has faced so far, and even one of the most incredible, powerful fighters that he has ever even seen as well, from different universes as well. Of course, Gohan is confused with what Hit means, but it tells that he'll find out sooner or later, as he knows that he and his father will face a threat even more powerful than him. Of course, Gohan is confused with what Hit means, but Hit eventually grabs his head, shaking slightly as his eyes return back to their normal red color. No one's actually able to tell that his eyes became blue for a split moment and then returned back to red. Wondering if that was someone controlling his mind for a second to tell him something or warn him. Gohan was confused, but he decided not to bother with it, saying that he must get serious. And as Hit eventually decides to strike Gohan, striking with 4 blows as Gohan feels his vital points almost shattering, as he felt that almost every bone of his body was shattered, seemingly as Gohan could not keep up. This was too overwhelming. Even his body was screaming for him to go on to give up. Natasha was just slowing the pain down, but it was still overwhelmingly painful. And the pain, due to being slowed down, was even more brutally more horrifying for Gohan. But everyone decided to not give up, and eventually powered up to his beast form, able to fix some of his injuries, and eventually utilizes his adrenaline inside to heal himself. We go on glaring at Hit, saying that this time he'll win serious against Hit. Prior to his maximum, it was surprised. Gohan was still holding a lot more power than before. And due to Hit basically injuring Gohan, Gohan was able to heal himself to 50%, gaining a slight Zenkai boost, alongside the beast form increasing his power overwhelmingly, with Gohan able to shatter to Hit's time domain, and now Gohan was free of it, with everyone else being confused with what happened. Even Beerus and Champa could not tell what was happening, but Goku and Vegeta could, alongside reason for those, as he was utilizing his time domain, so that only someone who is strong enough to be on the same level as Hit or beyond him can actually react to. But since he is growing stronger and the time domain is also growing as well, It also proved that Kid is grown more powerful, but not enough powerful to face against Gohan. And eventually, after a while, in a long battle, Kid decides to utilize even more of his power. As he utilizes even more, he's actually surprised that Gohan was still keeping up with him, if not even more. Eventually, he is defeated by Gohan, and he smiles at Gohan, saying that he was a pretty good fighter, and he really does hope to see Gohan once again. Of course, Champa is shocked as Kid actually lost again. One of his best fighters lost again. How? How is Beerus more so strong? He couldn't believe it. Champa was flabbergasted and lost for words. But Beerus just smirked at Champa, saying that he should have trained his mode for much more better. I say that he should have taken care of his universe much more better than being just a lazy god. Yes, Beerus knows that himself that he was indeed lazy. If not with the more to motivate him to train him once again, he most likely would be on the same case as Champa. But because of having Goku now, Beerus has much more bigger things to look out for. He knows that he must grow stronger, so he doesn't let Goku and Vegeta get strong in him. As he smiles. Eventually, he utilizes the Super Dragon Ball, summoning Super Shenron, with Goku and Vegeta being surprised by the power of Super Shenron. Super Shenron then instead looks to Goku and Vegeta with a slight glance, and eventually looks back to Beerus, where Beerus eventually utilizes the God language to wish for Champa's Universe 6 Earth to be revived. Of course, Champa was surprised, but Beerus said that this is basically a gratitude for Champa. So since he wants to have human food, then he can have it on his own Earth, of course. But he can also train his fighters as well on that planet if they have a time chamber there. But he knows the Pyramid of Power is much more beneficial than that, so he wishes him good luck. Of course, Champa gives it a C, but he thanks Beerus and eventually leads back to his universe. But Goku and Vegeta were actually bummed out since they didn't get to fight anyone, even to hit. He was really impressive. Even Goku and Vegeta were really impressed, but also kind of bummed out since they didn't get to fight anyone. Goku and Vegeta kind of got bored and eventually decided to train, continuing on their own training. We're focusing on trying to master the power rules of his Saiyan heritage, almost like he was trying heritage as well. Well, Vegeta was trying to focus on trying to master his Saiyan heritage and the power of the Destroyer path that Beerus was trying to told him about. Vegeta's actually got a good grasp on Hakai energy, though not being able to actually manifest it to his fullest capacity. While Goku himself is actually able to get a slight grasp on Ultra Instinct. Though not a full version of it, he can actually slightly tap into Sign from time to time, but not fully just yet. Just like Vegeta, he's still restricted by its own limitations currently. But limited the two most powerful models knew is that a god, Akai, was watching the entire tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7. He was irritated that a mortal was able to overpower other mortals without even utilizing godly powers. He was even shown that the gods themselves. This guy was none other than Zamzu, who planned to steal Gohan's body to make sure that these mortals face divine judgment from his own two hands. But this is the end for this part, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. I'll see you guys next time. Sayonara. Also, sorry for being so late to making other what ifs. It's been a really long time. I know, and I really apologize. Just make sure to like, subscribe, so you never miss a new video on my channel. Sayonara, everyone. Konmugujiro out.